She was young, talented, and full of promise until a single phone call changed everything. Alison Parrott left her home for what she believed was an incredible opportunity, but she was never seen alive again. In the vibrant city of Toronto, 1986, 11-year-old Alison Parrott captivated hearts with her radiant smile and remarkable athletic talent. A dedicated member of the Tom Longboat Track Club, Alison's passion for running led her to qualify for an international track meet in New Jersey, a testament to her hard work and determination. But beneath the surface of this promising young athlete's life lurked an unimaginable darkness, one that would forever alter her family's world and send shockwaves through the community. The disappearance. On the morning of July 25, 1986, 11-year-old Alison Parrott was at home in her Toronto residence when she received a phone call. The man on the other end claimed to be a photographer working with her track and field team. He invited Alison for a photo shoot at the University of Toronto's Varsity Stadium, where she had trained the previous fall. The opportunity seemed legitimate, and Alison, an eager and talented athlete, was excited about the chance. Since no one else was home, Alison called her mother, Leslie, at work to ask permission. Wanting to encourage her daughter's passion for running, Leslie agreed, instructing Alison to return home by 2:30 p.m. Alison reassured her mother that she would be back on time. At around 11:30 a.m., Alison left home wearing a white t-shirt, green running shorts, and white sneakers. She boarded the subway alone at Summerhill Station, heading south toward St. George Station near the stadium. Witnesses later confirmed that they saw her traveling alone. As the afternoon passed, Leslie expected Alison to return as planned, but as 2:30 p.m. came and went, worry started to creep in. By 5 p.m., with still no sign of her daughter, she began calling Alison's friends and teammates, hoping someone had heard from her. However, no one had any information. By 6 p.m., panic had fully set in, and the Parrotts contacted the Toronto police to report Alison missing. Officers responded quickly, searching the Varsity Stadium area, questioning staff and passers-by, and checking security footage, but Alison was nowhere to be found. The case gripped the city, and soon, dozens of volunteers joined the search efforts. However, their hopes were devastatingly shattered when, 2 days later, on July 27th, authorities made a grim discovery in Kings Mill Park, a heavily wooded area near the Humber River. The discovery. As hours turned into days, the search for 11-year-old Alison Parrott intensified, gripping the Toronto community with fear and concern. Despite extensive efforts, there was no sign of Alison. Then, on July 27, 1986, 2 days after her disappearance, two boys exploring a densely wooded area of Kings Mill Park, near the Humber River and just below the Old Mill subway station, made a grim discovery. They found Alison's lifeless body. Her body had developed bruises and marks from strangling. She was still tied in a rope and showed signs as she had been sexually assaulted. The news devastated her family and sent shockwaves through the community, leading to an outpouring of grief and a renewed commitment to protect children from such heinous acts. Investigation and initial challenges. In the aftermath of Alison Parrott's tragic death in July 1986, investigators faced significant challenges due to the forensic limitations of the time. Despite these constraints, they meticulously collected and documented all available evidence, hoping that future advancements might one day bring justice. The crime scene in Toronto's Kings Mill Park yielded several critical pieces of evidence. Biological samples. Investigators collected biological evidence from the scene. At the time, DNA profiling was not yet a standard investigative tool, limiting the immediate utility of these samples. Most crucial evidence was the semen of suspect on Alison's body. Ligatures. The perpetrator had used materials to bind Alison, which were recovered and analyzed for any trace evidence that could point to the assailant. Clothing and personal items. Alison's clothing and belongings were carefully examined for fibers, fingerprints, or other forensic clues that might lead to the perpetrator. Despite the thorough collection of evidence, the technological constraints of the mid-1980s meant that many forensic analyses we rely on today were not available. This reality left investigators with limited leads, and the case remained unsolved for a decade, causing profound anguish for Alison's family and the community. It wasn't until the mid-1990s, with the advent of more sophisticated DNA profiling techniques, that the preserved biological samples could be re-examined. This reanalysis eventually led to the identification and conviction of the perpetrator, bringing a measure of closure to a case that had haunted Toronto for years. Breakthrough with DNA evidence. In 1996, a pivotal breakthrough emerged in the decade-old investigation into the tragic death of 11-year-old Alison Parrott. Advancements in DNA technology enabled forensic experts to re-examine biological evidence collected from the crime scene. This reanalysis led to a match with Francis Carl Roy, a convicted sex offender with a history of similar offenses. Roy, an avid runner with a keen interest in photography, had a criminal record dating back to 1976, including possession of stolen property, petty theft, fraud, assault, breaking and entering, and rape. At the time of Alison's murder, Roy was on parole after serving part of an 11-year sentence for the rapes of a 14-year-old girl and a 19-year-old woman. Despite being questioned during the initial investigation due to his criminal background and proximity to the crime scene, Roy had provided an alibi that temporarily diverted suspicion. The DNA match in 1996 reignited the case, leading to Roy's arrest on July 31, 1996, just over a decade after Alison's murder. This development underscored the transformative power of forensic science in solving cold cases and brought a renewed sense of hope to Alison's family and the community. Trial and conviction. In 1999, more than a decade after Alison Parrott's murder, Francis Carl Roy stood trial for first-degree murder. The case hinged on a crucial breakthrough, DNA evidence linking him directly to the crime scene. However, Roy maintained his innocence, offering a defense that would shock the courtroom. In an attempt to explain the forensic evidence, Roy claimed that he had been in the area that day and had urinated nearby. He further stated that his DNA was found because he had inserted his fingers into Alison, but he insisted that he had not sexually assaulted her. This explanation was widely rejected by the jury and forensic experts, who found no plausible reason for his DNA to be present in such a manner. Despite the defense's efforts to cast doubt on the prosecution's case, the overwhelming DNA evidence, combined with Roy's prior history of violent offenses, secured a guilty verdict. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for 25 years, bringing long-awaited justice for Alison's family. Legacy and impact. The tragic loss of 11-year-old Alison Parrott in 1986 not only shook the Toronto community, but also led to significant initiatives and advancements aimed at protecting children and enhancing investigative methods. In May 1987, determined to prevent similar tragedies, Alison's mother, Leslie Parrott, collaborated with colleagues from the advertising industry to launch the Stay Alert, Stay Safe program. This nationwide initiative targeted children aged 7 to 10, teaching them to recognize and avoid potentially dangerous situations, whether at home or elsewhere. The program's impact was profound, becoming Canada's first and only national street proofing program, and it extended its reach to promote safety even on the internet. Alison's case also underscored the critical importance of advancements in forensic science. At the time of her death, DNA profiling was in its infancy. However, the meticulous preservation of biological evidence allowed for re-examination a decade later, leading to the identification and conviction of her murderer. This landmark case highlighted how technological progress in DNA analysis can breathe new life into cold cases, offering hope for justice even years after a crime has occurred. Through these developments, Alison Parrott's legacy endures, reflecting a community's resilience and commitment to safeguarding its children and advancing the tools necessary to uphold justice. Final thoughts. The tragic loss of Alison Parrott remains a painful chapter in Toronto's history. A young girl with boundless potential was taken far too soon, leaving behind a family and community forever changed. While justice was ultimately served, the grief and questions surrounding her case continue to resonate decades later. Alison's story reminds us of the importance of vigilance, the power of forensic advancements, and the lasting impact of those who fight for justice. What are your thoughts on this heartbreaking case? Should more be done to educate children on personal safety, or was this a tragic case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time? Share your insights in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more in-depth investigations into true crime and unsolved mysteries. A woman found brutally slain, her body left in one of the most infamous unsolved crimes in American history. Who was she, and why did her murder remain a mystery for decades? Join us next time as we unravel the enigma of the Black Dahlia, a case as chilling today as it was in 1947.